Today, man, I'm going to talk about probably the hardest absolute thing you can ever do to get weird. And if you get weird like this, man, you will be the weirdest person in the world. Today, I'm going to talk about loving our enemies. That stinks, doesn't it? I'm going to read in Luke, in the book of Luke, and this is Jesus' teaching. And I think Jesus teaches us how to get weird. And I think if we start to live according to the teachings of Jesus, we're going to stick out in this world like a freak, which is a very good thing, okay? So if somebody says, man, you're acting weird, just take that as a compliment, okay? Don't get all, well, they think I'm weird. Just like, yeah, it's because I'm weird. In Luke, I'm going to be in chapter 6. And in verse 27, in Luke chapter 6, verse 27, and this is some of the stuff Jesus was teaching. You'll find like in Matthew 5, it's in the Sermon on the Mount. And it's where Jesus went and he taught. And as Jesus is teaching these multitude of people, he's laying out what the kingdom of heaven actually looks like. And he's laying out this plan for life. And I have a friend that he was a shrink. I don't know if he's a psychologist or psychiatrist. I don't know what you call him. I'd say he's a shrink. And one time he was telling me, and this other guy, he said, you know, everything that we've learned about mental health and counseling and guiding people's lives, it's all in the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus basically taught everything that humanity needs for life in the Sermon on the Mount. And it's this gathering. He gathered all these people and he began to talk. And he began to talk about how life worked and how life functioned. And this is part of it. And the thing is, if you read the Sermon on the Mount and you actually start to do it, you're going to get weird. I mean, there's no way around it. And I'll show you why. Let's just start reading. Verse 27. But I say to you who hear, which is a weird statement, because if you said it to those who don't hear, then who are you saying it to? I say to you who hear, and that's a whole different thing about the way the rabbi was teaching. For those who have ears, let them hear. Love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who abuse you. If someone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from one who takes your cloak, your outer garment, your coat, do not withhold your tunic either. Like, if he takes your coat, give him your shirt too. That'll show him. I don't think that's the way he meant it, but I'm thinking, man, if I gave him my shirt, they'd be like, oh my God, please. Give to everyone who begs from you, and the one who takes away your goods, do not demand them back, and as you wish that others would do to you, do so to them. If you love those who love you, what benefit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what benefit is that? For even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect to receive, what credit is that from you? Even sinners lend to sinners to get back the same amount. But love your enemies and do good and lend and expect nothing in return, and your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High. For he is kind to the ungrateful and evil. Be merciful even as your Father is merciful. That's weird. How many of you, while I was reading that, And you can go ahead and stick your hands up, because we're all going to look at you. How many of you, while I was reading that, said, that's impossible? I mean, while I'm reading it, I'm going, no way. Right? I said you can stick your hands up. Everybody just shaking their head. Mm-hmm. That sounds crazy. Doesn't it? That's just crazy. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. No, who could do that? But then Jesus says when we do this, we're truly sons of the Most High God. How many of you guys, and if you guys were like, man, I do that every day, that wasn't impossible, I don't even know what you're talking about. If that's you, then, do whatever you're doing. Text somebody, I don't know. But for the rest of us who said, that's impossible, for the rest of us who said, that's the craziest thing, who could ever do that? For the rest of us, wouldn't we expect God to treat us that way? I really believe that we expect God to treat us exactly this way. When we do good, we expect God to treat us good. And when we do bad, we expect God to understand. And when we cheat and lie and steal and hurt other people, we expect God to forgive us. And we expect God to continue to love us. We expect God to not hold our sin against us. And He does. I need you to get that. We're not in a game of balance. We're not in a game of I've done this, so God owes me that. God doesn't owe us anything. He just loves us. And there's nothing you can do to change that. God's love and God's treatment of us is not based on how you perform. And if we can ever move past that in Christianity, if Christians can ever move past the performance state for God, where we get to know who we really are deep down inside, the core of us, and Jesus says it like this, He says, it's out of the heart that our lives are. It's like what flows from inside. He says there's things like murder and hate and anger and bitterness and adultery and rage and all of these things. Those flow from our heart, but so does goodness and mercy and love and joy and peace. And these things flow from our hearts too. So whatever it is inside of us is able to flow out unless we're just playing a role. And isn't it hard to be around somebody who's always playing a role? Because you just never know, right? You just never, ever know. But as Jesus is teaching, He says, and I'm going to find it. It disappeared. It was on my page when I read it a while ago. Oh, it says, you'll be sons of the Most High, for He is kind to the ungrateful and evil. To which I say, that's jacked up. Because they need to get theirs, right? I'll pray for those who wrong me. How many, we know what that means, right? I was reading that, everybody's like, amen. I'm praying right now. Because somehow we feel that God loves us and should get them, right? Because we've never done anything to anybody. Jesus, he teaches this as this law. And for us that we're saying, man, this is impossible. Who could ever do that? That's because we still see God as a God of rules and of laws and religion and performance and all of these things. But God is not a God of the law. Jesus said He came and He fulfilled the law. And He said, you've heard the law says this, but this is a new kingdom and this is a new heaven, a new earth. This is the kingdom. This is different. That's how it used to be. But now we're in a whole new world, and he says it's different now. It's not a performance-based thing. It's like God is near. He's actually written his laws on our hearts and our minds, and we know now, instinctively, we know what we should do. Everyone. And you're like, yeah, Christians, but man, I wish them stinking sinners would figure it out. What part of everyone do we always have to categorize? I've never met anybody who had to be told that what they're doing is wrong. And generally, people don't like it when you do that. I've even had people come and ask me, you think this is wrong? And I say to them, what do you think? Yeah, but I was really hoping you'd say something different. Because if I'm a pastor and I say it's okay, then whew, right? We're just wanting somebody to justify that what we're doing is wrong is right. But that's not the way it works. God's laws are written on our hearts. So we know instinctively what to do. We know instinctively how to live. This is a new world. And Jesus says things like, if you hate, then you're a murderer. You've murdered in your heart. Now I have to tell you this. I went to Best Buy last night. And I went on a killing spree. And I confess, I told Celia, though, we walked in and it already started going bad. I mean, we weren't in there long. And I said, I'm fixing to start sinning. I just told her, I was like, I'm telling you right now, it's coming. I could feel it. And what was flowing out of my heart was a complete slaughter. I wanted to kill everybody. Not that I wanted to kill them, but because Jesus said that if you had this anger, hate, bitterness, rage in your heart, that you were a murderer. And so, man, lock me up and throw away the key. And here's the thing, man, as I was treating these people like they were lesser intelligent, I mean, I had a bad night, I'm telling you. There were blue shirts everywhere in little groups of ignorance. And everybody was waiting on one manager, and she's running around from group to group, solving all the problems. I'm like, why don't she just eliminate all these people and take care of it herself? It was a disaster. I knew more about what was going on than the guy who was helping me. I was like, that's not how it works. Here's how it works. I've done this before. You evidently haven't. And I found myself so irritated. I told Celia, I said, I'm just ticked off. I went in a corner and told her that, though. I said, it's not good. And then I got in the car, and I don't know what happened in Mesquite, but who let those people out last night? It is not hard to get out of a parking lot. The roads are clearly marked. And I'm getting little... man, you ever been there? I'm the only one. I'm glad my kids weren't with me. I said some words last night that I have to repent from. People, man. If it wasn't for the people, this would be so easy. It's just the people. And all the time, this is God's little twist. Because all the time, I've been preparing this message all week, right? So what better test than the test of one who's going to say it, right? I should have just stayed home and watched football games by myself. because nobody can condemn you for yelling at the TV. Besides, I'm a better coach than they are. I don't understand how they... See, it's all the same. You can't even get away from it. Do you understand? You can't get away from people because when you turn on TV, people are on there. But there was no difference. Here's what God showed me, and this might help us all. There wasn't one blue shirt person at Best Buy that seemed affected or changed by my anger. No coach on television changed what he was doing by my anger. Yelling, hatred. By Jesus' words, mass murder. And I mean, last night, it could have been on national news in Mesquite, Texas. Thousands slaughtered. Thousands. Not hundreds. Dude, there was hundreds before I got into the store. Thousands murdered by impatient, angry idiot. And what God was showing me was that as I treat people the way I want to be treated, and I think in the context that Jesus is saying this, the context is that they're not the ones who are treating you right. It's to the ones who are not treating you right, not living up to your expectations, the ones who are offending you. Treat them as you would like to be treated. Love your blue-shirted enemy. I have passions against certain college football teams. And yesterday was a pretty good day for me because it went bad for them. And I celebrated in their failure. And that wasn't the love for my enemy I think Jesus was talking about. You don't just love your enemy when they fail. But as we start to live this and we start to look at this and we start to process what Jesus is teaching here is that there are people who aren't going to fit into your life well. There are people who are going to irritate you and people who are going to tick you off and people are going to make you need to go outside and breathe before you have a heart attack and get CPR by one of them. And then it hit me. It's not about me. It's time to get weird. I have to tell you guys this, just in my defense. Everyone in the store was ticked off. I wasn't the only murderer there. I would have had to get in line to murder. And there were lines everywhere. And the feeling in that place was very unlike church. It was very tense and very angry and very hostile. And it was hell. It was hell. I started thinking, man, isn't that how a lot of us live? Do we spend most of our lives in hell? Tense, angry, ticked off, on edge, ready to just slaughter. I think if we didn't have the discipline we have, man, there would be a lot fewer people in population. You know what I mean? We know that's not right. You can't just kill people. Right. Okay, just making sure. If not, we'll talk after. We got a padded room over here. We'll talk. It's not about me. That's what God just kept saying. It's not about you. It's not about you. And what I realized is that when Jesus says to love your enemies, and when Jesus says to treat people the way you want to be treated, when Jesus says that it's not a better way to hate, hate's not a better way, and bitterness and anger and rage and murder and all these things is not a better way. What he was saying is these things are going to kill you. If you want to hate somebody, that's your business. But all it's doing is destroying your life. It's not what Jesus wants for us. He wants life. When people borrow something from you and don't return it, it eats me up. My daughter, I got an 8-year-old that loves to take pens and pencils out of my desk. We don't have a pair of scissors in the offices. I don't know where they go. But you know, it never bothers the person who borrowed them and didn't return them. It bothers me, drives me crazy, keeps me up at night. My hate, my bitterness, my anger, my rage, all of that is taken away from my life, and Jesus doesn't want that for us. He wants us to have life. There's a reason it's better to not get angry. If someone demands something from you, if someone steals from you, man, one time I was at Six Flags and I was in high school and I had this awesome $600 truck. Had this awesome $2,000 stereo. And I was at Six Flags one day, and why you would even look in this truck was beyond me. And somebody took my stereo. I wanted to kill him. I felt so violated. You ever been stolen from? Man, you just want to kill, don't you? Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. We even go like, we live in Texas, so it's okay to kill people that steal. Like, that's our justification, right? You feel so violated, but Jesus is like, let it go, man. Like, take your radio, give them your crappy truck too. Why? Why does it sound so hard? Because when somebody takes something from you, it doesn't bother them. Obviously. But if we don't let it go, it kills us. And it changes us, and it makes us less trusting. And so those who love us don't get a chance because we hold other people's sins against the ones that are close to us, right? Like, we'll treat our family bad because Best Buy ticked me off. How's that a better way to live? Why can't we just let things go? See, when we start treating people that are mean to us and angry to us and jacking us over, and we know it, and I hate to be jacked over. I hate it, man. I hate when I know that you know that I know that you're doing me wrong. You know what I'm saying? I hate getting them taken advantage of. I hate losing. I hate finishing last. But when I hate, it takes something out of me. It doesn't affect the person who did it. It doesn't affect the person who's wrong. It doesn't affect other people. And what Jesus is saying is, I want life for you. I want you to experience life. I want you to experience the kingdom. I want you to know what it's like to live in absolute peace and harmony and in love. I want it for you. And there's two guys that are sitting there, man, saying, you don't understand, Todd. You don't understand how bad it was. I got it bad. You don't understand. I cannot and will not let it go. And to that I say, fine. It's only hurting you. We hang on to things And we're going to punish those who've wronged us. And we're going to hate our enemies. And we're going to pray for them. We're going to pray for their demise, their struggles, their failure. Jesus, man, he says, bless those that curse you. And this is like voodoo hoodoo stuff, like curse. Like I'm putting a curse on you. Well, I'm going to put a bless on you. What? That's weird, right? To love those that hate you, to smile and help those who are hurting you. That's weird. But what Jesus is trying to teach us is when we're able to do that, we're going to start to experience the kingdom of heaven. We're going to know what it's like to be sons of God. You're going to experience what it's like to be sons of God. Be merciful as your Father is merciful. Even though you're right, you may be the rightest right can be. But it's still not a better way to live. Merciful is being right, but allowing the person to take advantage of you anyway. Now don't be stupid. Go, hey, everybody, come take advantage of me. Because then you're just testing yourself. Because sooner or later, somebody's going to tick you off. Right? Don't test yourself. He'll line all that up for you. Just go to Best Buy. Just line it all up. Do you get it? Do you see what Jesus is wanting for us? Do you see how it works? See, when I was reading this, man, we're like, that's impossible, all those rules. How could I ever do that? I could never be a Christian. I could never be weird. But do you get it? It's not that hard. Jesus would never give us anything that's impossible. If we start to feel, and you know what I mean, when you start to feel that thing coming, when you have to call your wife over and go, it's there. You know what I mean? Like when you have to call her over and say, I'm going to blow. When you feel that, that's the kingdom slipping away. That's your peace disappearing. That's your love going. And here's the thing. We have an option to give away our peace, to give away our joy, to give away all of these things. And then the person who did something to you, who harmed you, hurt you, who wronged you, not only did they take your stuff, but they took something way more valuable than that. That's your peace, right? They took your kingdom. They took your sonship. They took your power away. You empowered them to have authority over you. Do you understand that Jesus, here's something that you may not get. As Jesus is laying and he's being nailed to a cross, and they stretch him out and they take hammers and nails and they pound them into his hands and feet. And he says, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. But do you understand in that statement, it wasn't for our benefit so we could go, ooh, Jesus was awesome. It wasn't for our benefit. He refused even in death to let Satan have power over him. And by forgiving and by not fighting back and by sacrificing himself and laying down his own life, he took the power from hell. See, you empower what you hate. Don't let people have power over you. When you love is power. And when you love and when you forgive and when you don't hold things against people and when you let people have the upper hand and when you choose to lose instead of win, you defeat the enemy. See, Satan thought he won because he took Jesus' life. His plan was to take Jesus' life. But the tables got turned because when Jesus laid down his life, Satan had no more power. Now what are you going to do? You want my coat? Here, take my shirt too. Now what are you going to do? You don't have any power over me. Do you see how it works? Do you see how we disarm the enemy? When you love the enemy, you disarm them. You remove all of their power. And people get freaked out when you do that. It's a good thing, right? That's weird, right? Let's live weird. It's just a better way to live. Let's live opposite. Let's get weird. Let's just do the opposite. Okay? Let's start loving people who hate us. When we got the feelings of rage, let's go out of our way instead of having rage. Instead of going off, go off with encouragement. Don't lie. Don't go, you're doing a fantastic job. Don't lie. That's sinful. Just say, man, you know what? They didn't train you very well. It looks like you're having a bad day. Look, all these people here are angry at you. I'm not. I love you. No, don't do that either. That's not right. But you see what I'm saying? It's weird. It's weird, right? But when we take authority in a situation and we control that emotion and we don't give it away and we don't empower things over us, man, that's going to come off weird. But you're going to find that the kingdom thrives in that. That your sonship shines in that. It's a better way to live. I want you guys to stand with me.
She said, "Don't."